Jack, a 36-year-old single dad and janitor, never expected to be a hero. When a dangerous manager pulled a gun during a tense CEO meeting, Jack threw himself in front of Melissa, the 26-year-old CEO, taking a bullet meant for her. What happens next changes the company forever and sparks a heartwarming, unexpected bond between a fearless CEO and a courageous single dad. Suspense, courage, romance, and a life lesson you won't forget. The morning sun slipped through the tall glass windows of Hartwell Industries, painting soft golden stripes across the polished hallway floors. Jack moved slowly with his cleaning cart, humming quietly, the wheels squeaking just a little, a sound he had grown used to after 2 long years of working here. Every morning started the same, yet today something in the air felt strangely heavy, like the calm before a storm no one could see. Jack wiped the dust from the doorknobs with gentle care, the way he did everything, quietly, steadily, without drawing attention. He wasn't the kind of man who wanted to be noticed. He just wanted to earn enough to raise his daughter right, to give Lily the childhood he never had. Every floor he cleaned, every trash he emptied, every late shift he took, it was all for her. He checked the time on his old watch, the one Lily had decorated with stickers of stars. He smiled softly. "Daddy's doing okay, kiddo," he whispered under his breath. The hallway echoed with the sharp click of heels, pulling him out of his thoughts. Melissa Hartwell, young, confident, graceful, walked with a calm authority that fit her naturally. Her presence always brought a small wave of energy to the building. When Jack noticed her approaching, he straightened instinctively, not out of fear, but respect. She slowed down when she saw him and offered her warm, genuine smile, a smile that didn't feel forced or corporate. "Good morning, Jack," she said, her voice soft but bright. Jack felt a small warmth rise in his chest. "Morning, ma'am." Their exchange was simple, short, and ordinary. Yet every time she spoke to him, it reminded him that kindness didn't require a title or wealth, just a good heart. What Jack didn't know was that Melissa liked more than just his work ethic. She liked his calmness, his quiet strength, the gentle way he pushed his cleaning cart like he carried the whole world carefully. He was different from people in her world, the polished, loud, confident crowd. Jack was real. Melissa walked past him toward the executive wing, her red folder tucked under her arm, unaware of the shadows waiting behind her day. Today she had an important meeting, the kind that could change the company's future. She had new plans, strict rules, and honest policies that threatened the comfort of a few powerful men who had grown too greedy. She believed in fairness. They believed in profit at any cost. As she disappeared behind the glass doors, Jack watched her for a moment, feeling a strange uneasiness in the pit of his stomach. It was a feeling he couldn't explain, like something hidden was about to come to light. A storm beneath the calm. He went back to sweeping, but his mind stayed on her smile, her tired eyes, the way she walked just a little faster today. Maybe nervous about the meeting. He wished her well quietly, even though she would never know. Inside the conference room, people were already gathering, some smiling too wide, some whispering too softly, some pretending loyalty they no longer felt. Melissa had no idea that the very people she trusted were preparing something unthinkable. But outside, Jack continued his simple morning routine, unaware that fate was about to pull him into Melissa's world in a way neither of them ever expected. A morning that started with a smile would soon end with a gunshot, and a sacrifice that would change both their lives forever. The conference room looked spotless, almost elegant in its perfection. Jack had spent extra minutes making sure every chair was straight, every glass was polished, and every water bottle stood exactly in line, because Melissa liked things organized, and he liked seeing her pleased. The soft shine on the table reflected the morning light, and for a moment the room felt peaceful, too peaceful. When Melissa stepped inside, her presence immediately shifted the energy. She carried herself with quiet confidence, not arrogance, not harshness, the kind of confidence built from honesty and responsibility. Her white blouse, her neatly tied hair, her focused gaze. She looked like a leader who wanted to make things better. But today the room didn't welcome her with the usual polite smiles. Some managers barely lifted their heads. Others forced stiff smiles that never reached their eyes. A few stared at her with cold, sharp expressions that carried months of resentment. Melissa sensed it. The tension, the bitterness, the unspoken rebellion growing under the surface. But she breathed in slowly, steadying herself. "Let's begin." Behind the closed doors, papers rustled, chairs shifted. Fake politeness filled the air like a poisonous perfume. Outside, Jack swept the hallway floor, but his ears caught the rise and fall of voices inside. He paused for a moment, listening. He didn't mean to eavesdrop, but something about today didn't feel right. Inside the room, Melissa went through the new policies. Stronger audits, transparent budgets, worker safety checks. The things she believed in. The things some men in that room hated. Her voice was calm, strong, confident, but under it there was a small tremor. She knew she was challenging powerful people, and they knew she wasn't backing down. One of the senior managers leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed. "So you're saying you want to cut off all unofficial partnerships?" His tone was dripping with anger. "Yes," Melissa replied firmly. "We will run this company the right way. No more cheating. No more hidden deals, no more threats to our workers." Another manager slammed his pen on the table, the sound sharp enough to make several people flinch. "Do you think you can walk in here at your age and change everything?" Melissa didn't blink. "If it protects my employees, yes, I will." Outside, Jack felt the tension growing like a storm behind a thin wall. He stopped sweeping. He stepped closer to the door, heart beating faster, broom held tightly in his hand. Suddenly, voices rose higher, sharper, like two waves crashing. Melissa's voice cut through the air. "If you cheated this company, you will face the consequences." There was a long, dangerous pause. Then a man shouted, his voice filled with pure fury. "You don't deserve this chair!" The words hit Jack like a warning siren. He had never heard shouting during executive meetings, never heard anyone raise their voice at Melissa. He straightened immediately, muscles tightening, feeling something cold run down his spine. His pulse quickened. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. The broom in his hand suddenly felt useless. He moved closer to the door, pressing his ear lightly against the wood. He didn't know what he would do. He didn't know what was happening inside, but the sense of danger was unmistakable, like the air right before lightning strikes. And somewhere deep inside him, fear rose for reasons he couldn't explain. Fear for Melissa. Because anger like that, anger that loud, could only lead to one thing. A moment that would change everything. A moment he wouldn't be able to ignore. The tension in the conference room had been sharp before. But when Harold stood up, it changed into something deadly. His chair scraped the floor with a harsh sound that made everyone look up, startled. Harold's face was twisted with rage, not normal anger, but something unstable, something burning too hot behind his eyes. His breathing was heavy, uneven, like he had been holding hatred inside for too long. People exchanged worried glances, sensing something was wrong, something beyond a simple argument. Melissa stiffened. She knew Harold had always resisted her policies, but she never imagined he would unravel like this. She opened her mouth to calm him, but it was already too late. With one sharp movement, Harold reached into his jacket. The room fell silent, like the air froze in place. No one breathed. No one blinked. And then it appeared. A gun. Small, black, cold, but powerful enough to destroy lives in a second. Gasps filled the room. Chairs scraped as people tried to push away, hands flying to their mouths, eyes wide with terror. Melissa felt her blood turn to ice. "Harold," she whispered, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay strong. "Don't do this." But Harold's face only twisted further. "You're destroying everything we built," he shouted, spit flying, emotions exploding like a cracked dam. "You want to take away our deals, our power, our money." Melissa's throat tightened. "This isn't the way." Harold raised the gun. His hands shook with fury, but the barrel pointed directly at her chest. Everything seemed to slow down. Her heartbeat thundered painfully in her ears. Her body stepped back instinctively, her breath catching in her throat. Outside the conference door, Jack heard the screams, high-pitched, terrified, desperate. The kind of screams that only come when people see death in front of them. He dropped his broom. It clattered to the floor, forgotten. His heart slammed against his ribs. He didn't think, didn't plan, didn't question. He just moved. His boots pounded against the hallway floor as he rushed to the door, shoving it open so hard it hit the wall. The sight inside nearly stopped his breath. A gun, pointed at Melissa. Her face pale. Her eyes wide with fear he had never seen in her before, fear that cut straight into him. Managers crouched behind chairs. Papers scattered across the floor. Harold trembling with rage, finger tightening on the trigger. And Melissa, she was staring at death. Jack's entire world narrowed to that single moment. He didn't think of his own life. He didn't think of the pain, the danger, the bullet that could tear through him. He only thought, not her, not Melissa. His body moved before his mind could even catch up. Pure instinct, pure protection, pure heart. He lunged forward using every ounce of strength he had, because in that fraction of a second, there was no choice. Only the woman he had admired from a distance. And the gun pointed at her. What happened next would change both their lives forever. Bang! The gunshot didn't just echo through the room. It cracked through the air like lightning, ripping the world apart. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Everyone felt it. The violent vibration, the sharp shock, the sudden punch of reality. People screamed. Chairs toppled. Men dove under the table. Some covered their heads, some their ears, some just froze in terror. But one man did not duck. One man did not hide. One man ignored the instinct to protect himself. Jack. He moved faster than anyone expected, even faster than Melissa could understand. 1 second, she was staring at the gun. The next, she felt a strong, warm body slam into her, shielding her. His arms wrapped around her as the world blurred. He didn't think of the gun. He didn't think of himself. He only thought, Melissa must live. The bullet hit him with a sickening thud, piercing deep into his shoulder. Fire ripped through his flesh, pain exploding like molten metal spreading under his skin. His breath left his lungs in a short, painful gasp. But he didn't fall. He refused to fall. Gritting his teeth, Jack pushed Melissa backward with the last burst of strength he had, guiding her behind the heavy conference table, out of the shooter's line of fire. Melissa stumbled as her back hit the table's edge. Her hands flew forward, grabbing Jack as he swayed. For the first time in her life, she felt real fear. Not fear of losing her company, not fear of failure, but fear of losing him. Jack, you're hurt, she cried, her voice breaking into pieces. Blood soaked through his shirt, warm against her trembling fingers. But he still tried to smile, though pain pulled at every corner of his expression. Couldn't let anything happen to you, ma'am, he whispered, voice weak but filled with something unspoken, something tender. Melissa's throat tightened. She shook her head, tears forming instantly in her eyes. You didn't have to, you shouldn't have. But Jack collapsed to one knee, gripping the edge of the table for balance. The bullet had torn deep, and his strength was slipping fast. Behind them, chaos erupted. Security stormed into the room like a wave of force, tackling the attacker to the ground. Harold screamed and fought, but it didn't matter. He was done. The other managers were pale, shaking, unable to comprehend what they had just witnessed. A janitor had taken a bullet meant for the CEO. A man they barely noticed had become the bravest person in the room. Melissa didn't care about any of them. She didn't even look up. All she saw was Jack, bleeding, pale, fighting to stay conscious. She pressed her hand hard against his wound, trying to stop the blood, her fingers trembling uncontrollably. Stay with me, please, please stay with me, she pleaded, her voice filled with raw panic. Jack blinked slowly, his vision blurring. Her face was close to his. Too close. Her eyes wide, full of fear, full of something deeper she couldn't hide anymore. His lips curved into a faint, gentle smile. Mel, I'm right here. Her heart shattered. Nobody had ever said her name like that. Soft, warm, precious. She leaned closer, her forehead almost touching his. Don't close your eyes, she whispered. Jack, stay with me, I need you, please. Her hand stayed on his wound, her other hand gripping his, as if her strength alone could pull him back from the darkness creeping in. In that moment, surrounded by chaos and fear, something unbreakable was born between them. A bond stronger than pain, stronger than fear, stronger than the bullet tearing through his shoulder. A bond that would change everything. The room was too quiet, too white, too clean. The kind of clean that smelled like medicine and pain and unspoken fear. Jack's eyelids fluttered open slowly, like they were made of heavy iron. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. All he felt was a deep ache burning through his shoulder, pulsing like a heartbeat created from fire. Then his vision sharpened, and he saw her, Melissa. Sitting beside his bed, her body leaned forward, her posture stiff from hours of worry. Her eyes were red, swollen, shimmering with tears that had already fallen, and tears still waiting to fall. Her hand was resting close to his, not touching, but close enough that he could feel her warmth like a quiet invitation. When she realized he was awake, her breath caught in her throat. "Jack?" she whispered, as if saying his name too loud might break him. Her voice trembled, a sound he had never heard from her before. Not in meetings, not in hallways, not in all the mornings they exchanged simple greetings. This was different. This was vulnerable. Jack swallowed, wincing at the pain echoing down his arm. His voice came out rough, weak but sincere. What happened?" Melissa leaned closer, her eyes softening with pure relief. "You took a bullet," she said quietly, as if the words themselves hurt her. "You saved my life, Jack." She paused, her lips trembling again. "I thought I lost you." Jack stared at her, breath shallow. "You stayed here?" he asked softly, noticing the faint smudges under her eyes. She nodded, wiping a tear before it could fall. "I didn't leave, not even for an hour. I couldn't." Her voice cracked just a little. Jack felt something shift inside him, something warm, something tender, something he tried to push away for 2 years. But now he couldn't. Melissa looked at the bandage on his shoulder, her fingers curling tightly together as if holding herself from shaking. "Why did you do that?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Why would you risk your life for me?" Jack turned his head slightly, wincing again. "Because—" He paused, searching for the right words. "Because you're a good leader. You care about people, and this company, it needs you." He looked into her eyes, seeing pain, kindness, and something deeper. "And because Lily needs you too," he added softly. "If something happened to you, this whole place would fall apart." That wasn't the full truth, but it was the safe truth, the part he could say without revealing the feelings beating quietly in his chest. Melissa shook her head slowly, her eyes filling again. "Jack," her voice was thick with emotion, "you matter too, more than you know." Her words washed over him like warm water, soothing, surprising, unbelievable. No one had said something like that to him in years, maybe ever. He looked at her, really looked at her, the CEO who had every reason to leave after security arrived. Yet she stayed, through the blood, through the fear, through the uncertainty. For him, her hand finally moved, trembling slightly, and she placed it gently over his. The touch was soft, careful, as if he might break, but it sent a warm shock through his entire body. Jack's heart beat faster, not from pain, from her. Her voice dropped to a whisper, filled with meaning she wasn't ready to fully say yet. "You didn't just save my life, Jack, you changed it." He felt breathless, and for the first time since the shooting, he smiled. A small, soft smile meant only for her. And in that quiet, sterile room, filled with antiseptic and fear and the slow beeping of machines, something gentle bloomed between them. Something real, something beautiful, something they could no longer pretend didn't exist. Jack finally stood on his own feet again, though slowly, carefully. The company's private medical room felt too quiet, too bright, like the world had paused just for this moment. That's when Melissa walked in. But this time, she wasn't the icy CEO everyone feared. She wasn't holding a tablet or a stern expression. She held a letter. Jack frowned. Is that my termination?" Melissa let out a soft breath, almost a laugh. "No, Jack, this is something else." She handed him the envelope. Jack opened it slowly. His eyes widened. A new position. A real one. A title he never imagined would have his name on it. Head of Employee Support and Safety. A full salary. A furnished office. Insurance and benefits, including coverage for his daughter, Lily. Jack blinked, overwhelmed. I'm just a janitor," he whispered, voice cracking. Melissa stepped closer, her calm voice wrapping around him like warmth. "No, you're the bravest man in this entire building." She held his gaze, steady, honest, emotional. Jack felt his heart stumble in his chest. "But why would you go this far for me?" he asked quietly. Melissa's voice softened in a way he had never heard before. "Because you saved my life," she said. "And because I see you, Jack, truly." For the first time in years, someone didn't look through him. Someone looked at him. He felt it deep, a slow warmth blooming in a place that had been cold for too long. And for a moment, the gap between CEO and janitor didn't exist at all. A week later, Jack was finally back home, moving slowly but healing well. He wasn't expecting anyone, especially not the CEO of the entire company, to knock on the door of his tiny apartment. But Melissa stood there holding a neatly wrapped box. "For Lily," she said softly. "A science kit. I thought she'd love it." Lily squealed with joy, ran straight into Jack's arms, then surprised Melissa with a warm hug, too. The moment made Melissa's heart melt in a way she hadn't expected. Soon, the small apartment filled with laughter and the smell of pasta bubbling on the stove. Jack cooked. Melissa cut vegetables. Lily sat at the table, coloring planets and rockets and proudly showing off each one. It didn't feel like a CEO visiting an employee. It felt like a little family forming without anyone saying it out loud. Melissa found herself watching Jack as he moved around the kitchen, steady, gentle, patient. There was something about him. Something real. Something that made her feel safe in a world that rarely gave her that feeling. Finally, while Lily focused on her coloring, Melissa stepped closer, her voice quiet. "You know, after everything that happened, I feel different," she said. Jack looked up, meeting her eyes, his expression soft and steady. "How different?" he asked. Melissa inhaled, her cheeks warming, her heart beating faster than she expected. "I don't want to imagine my life without you," she whispered. Jack slowly reached out and touched her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles with gentle care. "You won't have to," he murmured. For a moment, the room fell silent, not empty, but full. Full of something new, something tender, something that felt like the beginning of forever. 3 months had passed since the day that changed everything. The office, once tense and fearful, now hummed with a quiet energy, confidence mixed with respect. The corrupt managers had been removed. Their schemes no longer poisoned the workplace. In their place, fairness, honesty, and transparency were the new rules. Employees walked taller, heads held high because they knew they were valued. And everyone knew Jack, not because he had saved the CEO from a bullet, not because he was suddenly noticed by everyone, but because he had always been good, always honest, always steady. The man who cleaned floors, fixed leaks, and carried heavy boxes had earned respect that no title could buy. Melissa walked beside him through the hallways, her hand brushing lightly against his at times. Small, fleeting, meaningful touches. No fear lingered, no tension, no pretense, only trust, only love, growing quietly, patiently, like a seed breaking through stone. Jack noticed how people stopped and smiled at Melissa, then at him, a silent acknowledgement of the man they had underestimated. It wasn't hero worship, it was respect. True respect. As they passed the main conference room, Jack glanced inside. Employees were laughing softly while planning a new project together. The air was lighter, freer, safer, all because someone had chosen courage over fear, honesty over silence. Melissa looked up at Jack, her green eyes shining. Her heart beat a little faster with every step they took together. She remembered that day, the way he had thrown himself in front of her, his face pale but determined. The bravery, the selflessness, the quiet heroism. She had never forgotten. Finally, they reached the exit of the building, the sunlight spilling across the street. The day was ordinary in every other way, yet everything inside their hearts had changed. Melissa took a deep breath, her fingers brushing his again. Her voice trembled, soft but firm. "Jack, I think I'm falling in love with you." He stopped, looked at her fully, and for a heartbeat, the world outside disappeared. Her words were everything he had felt, but never dared to admit. A slow smile curved his lips. "I've been falling for you too," he said softly, voice filled with warmth and certainty. Melissa laughed softly, a sound of pure relief and happiness, and entwined her fingers with his. Jack held her hand gently, his thumb stroking hers as they started walking. Step by step, side by side, as if nothing could ever break what had been built between them. In that moment, the office behind them, the city around them, everything faded away. There was only trust, only honesty, only love. A CEO and a single dad, walking hand in hand, proving a truth too often forgotten. Respect has no rank. Love has no position. Heroes can come from anywhere. And in every glance, every step, every gentle smile between them, the lesson became clear. Courage and goodness matter more than power and wealth. Kindness matters more than appearances. And life is better when we see each other. Truly. The employees who witnessed Jack's rise, Melissa's care, and the office transformation would never forget. They learned that day that bravery is quiet, that heroism can be ordinary, that love can grow in the most unlikely of places. And for Jack and Melissa, the world had opened a new chapter. Not just a company changed, but hearts changed. Not just offices cleaned, but lives healed. The sun was shining. The building stood tall behind them. And as they walked forward, hand in hand, hearts beating in sync, the world felt a little brighter, a little warmer, and full of hope. For anyone who saw them or heard their story, the message was simple. Goodness matters. Courage matters. Love matters most of all. And in a world that sometimes forgets, that lesson would remain.